And you mentioned the pesticides. How did you guys find that out that they're using these kind of dangerous pesticides?
So it's kind of interesting. So a few years ago, we started seeing the pesticides in the field, but we really didn't know they were pesticides. We were seeing these Chinese labeled containers. They're like Mylar bags. They look like almost like foil. And they kind of scattered around the different sites, and we used to walk over them or just move them out of the way, and because we didn't read the Chinese writing. So it was probably a year to 2 years ago, somebody got the idea, one of our environmental health specialists had took a picture of the label and translated it, and it came back listing various pesticides. And so then we knew that we had pesticides containers, and then we started seeing them everywhere. So the story that essentially unraveled from that is that we had the product, like the marijuana in the field, tested that had those bags on site, and that came back with just all kinds of different pesticides that are essentially prohibited in the United States.
These pesticides, is it dangerous for health? Why is it prohibited?
Yeah, super dangerous. So that's a great question. So to give you a little backstory on this, so the Department of Cannabis Control tests for 66 different pesticides. That's in regulation. So they're looking for that to make sure that the pesticides aren't present or they're within certain values or under certain values to ensure that it's safe. That's sort of the idea behind testing. So when we took the samples that came from certain cultivation sites that we had pesticides in, we took that, we sent it off to a lab, and it came back with 23 different pesticides.
Wow.
So of the 23 pesticides, 15 of those in that 23 were not pesticides that the Department of Cannabis Control has in regulations as a pesticide that is tested. So they're outside the scope of the 66 tested pesticides. So then when you break it down even further, of the 23, there's 12 pesticides in those substances that actually suppress the central nervous system. So when you're constantly exposed to that, it'll actually suppress your nervous system.
Wow.
So of those 23, we moved down into, there's 8 different pesticides that are carcinogenic from California's standard of Prop 65. So and of the 23, 6 of them are groundwater contaminants. So if they get into the groundwater, they contaminate the groundwater. Breaking it down further, of the 23, 5 of them are 100% banned in the United States and they're not allowed to be used at all. And then 3 of the 23 actually are air contaminants, so they shouldn't be out and dispersed into the open. And then of all those, of all 23, there are 0 that are allowed to be fumigated, which is what is happening out in the field. So they're essentially putting, it's like a sawdust material. And they open up a package, they put it in a like aluminum can, like a Coke can, they cut it in half, they put the sawdust in there, and they have a little fuse that they light, and they do that within these grow houses, the hoop houses, and it fumigates the inside to it's a gas, right? So it fumigates. And so that's what kills pests and the different things that are on the plants. And so that's being released into the air. It's contaminating everything inside the structure, including the people that are cultivating. So that method of fumigation is 100% illegal.
We're covering California issues, as you know. If you want us to cover the stories that are impacting your day-to-day life in California, reach out to me at siamak@californiainsider.com.
So this is going into these products, right, that people are smoking, right?
Right. So that's another thing that I think, regardless of how people feel about marijuana, whether they believe that it's, medicinal value or they just don't like it, your personal opinions aside, there's a huge public health issue because we have determined, based upon our sampling, that we have product coming from Siskiyou County that is getting into other communities, into licensed facilities, as well as the black market that has these pesticides on it. and people are buying it, they're smoking it, or they're eating it, they're consuming it somehow, and there is no alert going out. I can give you an example. So it was about a year ago, my deputies made a traffic stop on a large delivery truck. It had about 4,500 pounds
Wow.
of marijuana in it, and it was being driven by a driver that was representing a licensed facility in Southern California. And this driver had indicated that he was given money to come up and buy the marijuana in Siskiyou County. And he even indicated that it wasn't his first time that he had come up there to buy the marijuana. So he was headed back to Southern California with this marijuana when we made the traffic stop. And we had 3 samples taken from that marijuana, and we gave those samples to the Department of Cannabis Control. And the flower was tested, and it came back with 8 different pesticides that were very similar to our Chinese labeled pesticides that we've been seeing in Siskiyou County. So we know that that marijuana was going to Southern California to be manufactured into something. And they had come up and done that before. And so it was some time that went on that the Department of Cannabis Control finally revoked the license of this manufacturer. This company, if you look at their website, which I think is still up, it talks about how their product is safe and how it is of the best quality, and that's what's on their website. But in reality, the marijuana that they are using is contaminated with pesticides. And so what that tells me is that the company doesn't really care about the consumer. It's more about marketing, and it's about profit. And that's sort of what it's turned into, is people just want to get ahead however they can. And so it's very manipulative, and it ultimately is going to negatively affect the general public that's consuming this. And we talk about it being a medicine, but it is being poorly regulated. And there needs to be a better effort to ensure that people are not smoking carcinogenic marijuana.